How's the water? Not too warm for you? I like it best when it's so warm, it's almost unbearable. So I always go in the warmest pool. It does wonders for the muscles and the skin too. Did you know that this bath was built on a natural spring, said to be blessed by the gods? I don't doubt it for a second. This is a place of healing. I can feel it. I bet it's just what you need tonight, after traveling all the way from Rome. How do you like living in the big city? It has a lot to offer, I know, but I would never want to live there again. I don't miss it at all. The smell, the noise, the crime. And even smaller towns have decent baths nowadays. So I'm quite happy where I am. I wasn't sure the guards were willing to let us in after hours. They do sometimes, but of course they're not supposed to. It's wonderful to be here when the place is quiet and empty. It makes me think of what this place must have been like before the town was built. I imagine it as a secluded pool or hot spring in the woods, surrounded by great oaks, like the magic groves in myth, where the gods and goddesses seduce humans. Remember when you were little, and I used to tell you stories when you couldn't sleep? I'll tell you one tonight, if you want to listen. I've been thinking about the story of Echo and Narcissus, of unrequited love, of revenge and pity. I'm sure you've heard it before, but it's good for more than one use. And everyone tells it a little different. The story starts with Liriope, a naiad, a nymph of Phokis, a lady of the water. She bore the river god Kephisos a sweet child, a son, so charming none had seen his like. He grew up to inspire girls and boys both with thoughts of love. Liriope called the boy Narcissus. When she asked the prophet Tiresias how long her child would live, would he live to a great old age, the prophet answered, only if he does not come to know himself. For a long time after, this prophecy seemed vain and pointless. And yet what happened proved it true. Narcissus' death, the way it happened, and his strange love. When Narcissus reached his 16th year, he seemed to be boy and man both, and both boys and girls fell in love with him at first look. But the slender figure of Narcissus had little feeling for any of them. One day, when he was hunting deer, a girl with a queer voice came upon him in the forest. Echo was her name. In those days, Echo was far more than a voice. She was a young nymph from Mount Kithyron. She had a body and a voice, although her speech was strange. She took only the last few words she heard and repeated them. This was the work of jealous Juno, wife of Jupiter, who caught her husband in the arms of naiad girls on mountainsides. On one such occasion, to help the lovers escape Juno's wrath, Echo occupied her long in conversation until the lovers had fled to safety. Echo's distraction did not go unpunished. When Juno discovered it, she said, "That tongue which has deceived me shall make no noise but the fewest words. Never again shall you be able to speak your own mind." From then on, Echo's speech was diminished. She retains only the last sounds that she hears and says them back again to those around her. The day she saw Narcissus wander through the forest, she fell in love and followed him in secret. And when she crept closer to his side, fired with love, the very source of the flame fed the fire. She was like sulfur at the tip of a torch, leaping into flame when another flame leans towards it. She longed to lure him with soft words, but being what she was, she could not make the sounds come. She had to wait until another spoke, then mirror them in their own voice. Meanwhile, Narcissus, alone and separated from all his friends by the hunt, began to shout, "Is anybody here?" "Here," Echo answered, and the wandering boy looked far around him and cried out again, "Come! Come!" she called after him. He looked behind him and saw no one there. "Why hide from me?" he said, and heard the same words follow him. Then he stopped, held in place by the deceptive sounds around him. "Here we shall meet," he said, and Echo never answered more eagerly, "Here we shall meet." To make those words come true, she stepped beyond the shelter of the trees to throw her arms around him. But then he ran from her, crying, "No! You must not touch me. Take your hands away. May I be dead before you throw your fearful chains around me." "Fearful chains around me," Echo said, and then no more. And so she turned away, to hide among the trees, to live alone and not among her own kind. But her obsession was so strong, she could not leave it, nor carry it. Slowly she turned into a shade. Her body faded from the world, and in the end only her voice remained, and her bones laying among the trees. Vanished in the forest, far from home, she is heard by all who calls out. Her voice alone has life. The way Narcissus had betrayed frail Echo, so he had done with all the girls of the river, the women of the mountains, with boys and men as well. Lovesick and left behind, and angered by the loss of Echo, they raised their prayers to high Olympus. "May he love himself alone," they cried, "and yet fail in that great love like we have." The curse was heard by wakeful Nemesis, goddess of revenge, distributor of fortune and retribution. Deep in the forest was a pool of water, well deep and silver clear. Whenever a shepherd came, nor beast or bird. Nourished by the water, grass grew thick around it, and over it dark trees had kept the sun from ever shedding warmth upon that place. Here came Narcissus one day, unknowingly lured by Nemesis. Tired, he fell to the grass, charmed by the bright well and its greenery. He bent down to drink, to quench his thirst. Yet as he drank, another thirst rose up, and raptured beauty caught his eyes and trapped him. He fell in love with the image in the water, and looked amazed at what he saw. Himself. Fixed, bending over it, he could not speak. Flat on the grass he lay, to look deeper, deeper, and deeper still, into two stars that were his eyes, enchanted by the charms that were his own. Himself the worshipped and the worshipper, he sought himself and was pursued. Again and again, he tried to kiss the image in the well. Again and again, his arms embraced the elusive waters where his image shone, in vain, in vain. O foolish innocent, why try to grasp the shadows in their flight? What he had tried to hold resided nowhere. Had he turned away, the reflection would have disappeared as well. His love was cursed. Only a mirror of reflection filled his eyes, a body that had no being of its own, a shade that came, stayed, and left with him. Neither the need for food nor sleep could lure Narcissus from the well, but flat upon the grasses there he lay, trapped by the mirage of his eyes, to look and look upon himself for as long as his eyes would see. He raised his arms to the dark trees overhead and cried out, "O trees, O forest, O you who know the ways of many lovers in your shaded groves, was there at any time in that long past, the centuries you've known, one who is spent, wasted, like this? I am entranced, enchanted by what I see, and yet it eludes me. Not sea, nor plain, nor city walls keeps us apart, only this veil of water, so thin we can almost touch each other. Why do you glide away from me, my love? Where do you vanish to when I come to meet you? My youth and beauty cannot be denied, and your tempting glances tell me of interest in your eyes. Even as I reach for you, your arms almost embrace me, and as I smile, you smile again at me. When I weep, I see great tears flow down your face. I bend my head towards you, and you nod at me, and I believe that from the movement of your lips, though nothing's heard, you seem to answer me. What am I to do? Am I the lover or the beloved? Since I am what I long for, then my riches are so great they make me poor. Oh, may I fall away from my own body, for my love drains my life. But I do not fear the death that will end my trials. Yet I wish my love had a longer life. If not, the two of us shall perish in one breath. Narcissus' tears stirred the pool, and as he saw his image flicker, he cried out, "Where are you going? Stay with me. Come back. Don't leave me here. It may be my fate to look at love and never touch it." In his agony, Narcissus tore his dress and beat his naked chest with pale hands. As apples ripen, some parts white, others red, and as growing grapes takes on a purple shade, so Narcissus' chest took on these darkening colors. And when he saw them, for the pool had cleared and the water settled, he could endure no more, and as autumn frost melts to dew in the morning, so did Narcissus wear away with love, drained, fading away, much like Echo had done. Yet when Echo saw him, scarcely recognizable, she felt pity at the sight, and as his hands struck his own breast and shoulders, so she repeated these weak sounds of grief. While gazing down the well, his last words were, "O darling boy, whose love was my undoing." And all the grove resounded with their saying. With his last farewell, which Echo answered, he placed his head deep in the cool grasses, while death shut fast the eyes that shone with light at their own luster. His naiad sisters of the river shaved their heads in sorrow for their brother, nor were his sisters of the forest silent, but filled the air with grief, which Echo carried on the wind. They searched for him, for his body had vanished, but in its stead they found a flower of gold with white-rimmed petals. And that is the myth of Echo and Narcissus, as Ovid tells it in his Metamorphosis. His stories never cease to fascinate me. Gods who transform themselves to seduce humans, or transform others as reward or punishment. Narcissus turned into a yellow flower, Arachne to a spider in her web, and poor Daphne, who had to give up herself and turn into a laurel tree in order to escape her pursuer, Apollo. Passion and refusal, the contrary wills of two people, one excluding the other. The hubris of heroes and the inevitability of prophecy. The hero who thinks he does good when indeed he does evil, and the moment of realization, when everything is lost. There is nothing sweeter nor more tender than tragedy. It is late, but the water is still warm. Let us stay a bit longer and enjoy the evening and the mellow aftermath of the catharsis Echo and Narcissus gives us.